I'll share a story with you and give you some of my perspective, what I went through, and then talk about some of what my friends have been through in similar types of situations.
Mm-hmm.
So about a year and a half or so ago, we were involved in an officer-involved shooting incident. On that day, I was just your patrol, run-of-the-mill patrol canine, and I got asked by our plainclothes task force to come out and give them a hand. They were trying to apprehend a known criminal. They knew this dude had a very long, bad history. He had recently been seen with guns. Highway Patrol had recently contacted him. He had a gun on him. He took off in a pursuit. We knew he's a bad dude. And so the idea was we needed to get him. Our gun violence had been through the roof, and we needed to grab onto this guy so that we could try to start to quell some of this stuff. So our plainclothes guys ended up tracking him to a hotel in our city, and we set up surveillance on it. We developed a plan. I mean, we had everything accounted for to a T, and we knew where the guy's car was parked. We knew that he was inside the hotel. We set up accordingly. When he came out of the hotel, the plan was going to be that I was going to challenge him with my partners. We were in a minivan together. We call it a heavy van.
Okay.
So I've got 2 SWAT operators in the van with me, and then I sit in the back of an unmarked minivan. This was a Honda Odyssey, so your average soccer mom minivan, and you got cops.
It's not a lot of space in there, especially if everybody's kitted out.
Well, yeah, and nobody's expecting cops to come flying out of this thing.
Yeah.
So, our guy comes out, and the 3 of us are there.
Is the dog in there too?
Yep.
Oh man, yeah, it's a party.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So nobody's expecting that, but the element of surprise is in our favor on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, dude comes out of the hotel. We see him come to the door. He's looking around. He probably got tipped off. The cops were there. He comes out the door. I hop out of the van, and I immediately challenge him, and he takes off running. So the fact that we know he's armed, we know that he runs, like all this stuff, we're going to use the dog. Dog's a perfect, less lethal tool. It's going to grab him. So we chase him through the parking lot. He ends up pulling out a gun. He's trying to shoot my dog. He's pointing it at us, trying to shoot it at us. What we didn't know was we believed that at some point when the dog took him down, his gun actually broke. It was not operable at that point in time.
So wait, he's pulling the trigger, but the gun's malfunctioned.
Well, what's funny is we never even found the trigger to the gun.
What?
Yeah. So we speculate. I mean, he's a bad dude. He's not going to pull a fake gun or a non-operating gun on us. That's not who he is. So I don't know. Our guardian angels somehow got us on.
Yeah, nobody's
right?
carrying a gun that doesn't have a trigger in it.
Right.
With as easy as it is to get a gun anyway, if you had a broken gun or didn't have a trigger, this dude could easily resource another one.
My dog's on bite on his arm, ripped him off his feet, got him on the ground.
Okay.
He's on bite on his arm, and he's trying to contact shot the dog in the head. And the gun's not going off. And so he's punching the dog in the head with the gun, and we're yelling at him, and he keeps coming out. He's pointing out on us, and he's probably just as surprised that his gun's not going off, right? But we don't know what's going on. So anyway, long and the short of it is that ends up being an officer-involved shooting. 2 of my partners fire and hit him. He ends up being deceased on scene right there.
We did a timeout. Okay, so we have a dog on bite, bad guy with gun, bad guy's trying to shoot the dog.
The dog
that's on bite. And there's a wrestling match that's going on right now. And then there's officers all around that are watching all this go down, and the guy's pulling the gun. Now he's pointing the gun at you guys. This is all happening very fast.
Oh, yeah.
How far are the officers from this wrestling match that are going on?
So when we sent the dog, he actually goes into a wide open parking lot with no other cars.
Okay.
And so me and 2 other guys are on foot running after him, and then everybody else that had set up surveillance is pulling cars in, kind of converging.
Okay.
So the distances kind of varied. I was probably 20-ish yards by the time I stopped running. When I realized that he had a gun, some of the guys were much closer. But 10, 15 yards maybe. But right up close enough that you're not going to have to aim that hard to hit
you're point shooting
a broad target, right? Yeah, you're almost point shooting at that point.
But the dog doesn't hold still when he's on bite, so they're flopping around in there.
Especially the more he fought the dog on that one, the dog really committed.
Sure. How many bites does your dog have?
That was bite number 11.
Okay, so this is not your first rodeo. This is not the dog's first rodeo. So he's doing his job. You see the gun come out. You see what's going on. What's going through your mind? I mean, and by the way, like, I don't even know what the protocol would be. Like, at this point, like, the dog's not on a long line or anything. You sent the dog running. So are you committed to also drawing your weapon at this point? So are you aiming at or basically at the suspect and your dog?
You know, that was a big part of the issue in this whole thing was I didn't. The way that we train it, the canine operators always have lethal cover, and we all have our roles and our responsibility. And as far as I was concerned in that moment of time, all I wanted was my dog to come off and create space and let my guys
do what they need to do.
Get the work done, right? And my job is to deal with the dog. That's why I'm the handler. That's why I'm there. And I'm the only one that can do it. It's not like if I don't do it, somebody else will pick up that work. So that was an issue. And I had, we all run our dogs on e-collars. And I had an e-collar failure that day. If you could ever pick the worst day to have an e-collar failure, I found it.
Shit.
So
you're trying to out the dog.
Yep.
And you're trying to stim the dog to do this. Now, I'm not completely familiar, but I've been around this enough and use an e-collar with my own dog. Like, you go into the situation prepared.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, everybody's checking, like, hey, are we ready to go? You're hitting the button and you're trying to out him, and he's going to work.
Yep.
Like, and until you tell him to out and he gets the signal, he's just going to keep going.
And to backtrack a little bit, that was his second bite of that day. And
so he switched on.
He was switched on, but
it was fine before.
Failures,
it was fine before.
Exactly. So my dog, I run the e-collar at probably 25% of what it's capable of, and that's where my dog's comfortable. And during that shooting, as I'm yelling for him to come off and I'm stimming him and he's not coming off, I crank it up to 100.
Yeah, so that's going to be my next question, because this would be the same thing if I don't get recall from my dog at whatever I know that typical setting is, or she's really whatever.
Yeah.
She switched on. Well, we just crank that thing up. She comes right back.
Oh yeah.
Right back.
Yep.
And so that's not working.
There was no change.
There's no change in behavior.
You can tell. I mean, you use an e-collar, you can see their fur moving. They're getting some juice,
or they give you a little wiggle once you crank it up to a certain amount, which is not the idea. The idea is to keep it down below so that they get just enough to recognize, well, I don't want that level, so I'm gonna obey whatever's was supposed to be happening here, dude. So you have enough time to. Well, is there another button that goes to 100? Basically, you can go max level if...
there's a dial.
Okay, so you had to go to your dial. So this is all going down. You had to go to your dial, dial it up, and you're stimming. He's still not responding.
And I'm getting no reaction.
What's going through your head, man?
I thought for sure I was losing my dog. No doubt. I thought for sure.
I have to imagine.
I thought for sure that I was losing the dog when I was watching him trying to contact shot over the head.
So this, yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's it. Dog's done, right? He's not going to survive a contact shot to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my partners start laying down some fire, I'm like, there's no way. I mean, the dog's all over this dude. You don't have to miss by much, or you get a through and through.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to hit.
It's still going to hit the dog.
I thought
it's all bad,
right?
There's all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah. So that was definitely the worst day to have a malfunctioning piece of equipment, right?
So you got an equipment, you got a bad guy with a gun. Fortunately, he had a bad day with the malfunction as well. Man, moon, sun, and stars there. All right, so the guy takes a couple shots from a couple of the other officers, ultimately does not make it. Yeah, does not survive those. And you got to go get the dog off bite. So
So we end up we get a team together. I tell my supervisors, thankfully, 2 supervisors that are on scene are former canine handlers. So
oh wow,
so it worked out real well. I said, hey, he's not coming back. We got to go get him. And you can hear in the video, you can hear me screaming for him to come back. He's not coming back. So
I'm sure. Yeah,
he, if we didn't go get him, he'd still be out there right now on that bite. He ain't letting go. So we got a team together. We got a shield up. We got a group of guys. We went up there. We kicked the gun out of his hand. We were able to get control of him. I was able to get control of the dog, hard out the dog, get him back.
Mm-hmm.
My teammates dealt with the suspect, rendered medical aid, and did all that kind of stuff. My dog is all black. He's jet black, and you're not going to see blood on black fur very well, right?
We talked about this, like carrying black gloves on duty and not being able to see the color of the fluid that may or may not be on your hands.
Totally.
They're tactical, but it's not cool when you're in one of those critical situations.
Yeah, so it's funny. I pull him back, and I'm like, checking him.
Is he wearing a ballistic vest?
No.
Is that not part of the department policy, or you choose not to? I mean, people have questions about this. I do. Why wouldn't you be why wouldn't you be? Were you wearing a ballistic vest?
Yeah.
So why isn't your dog wearing a ballistic vest, man?
So there's no policy for it for the canines. It's really a preference type of an issue. For me, they're hot, they're heavy, they're cumbersome for the dog, and you want them to wear that 12 hours a day, out searching, out working. You're wearing them out faster. I prefer to run my dog naked. It's less that suspects are going to grab onto, or going to grab and try to physically pull the dog off bite. I prefer not to. I think that the chances of the dogs getting shot is significantly less than the dogs getting stabbed on calls. And those ballistic vests don't stop knife wounds anyway.
Really?
No, you can stab right through those.
Wow, I had no idea. Unlike if you're wearing plates, obviously the knife's going
right. Yeah,
plates, but you can't put plates on a dog.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, your soft armor, not going to do well. And most dogs get shot in the head and the face by suspects as they're coming in for the bite.
Right, because it's the narrow profile.
Right,
yeah.
and the suspects are just trying to lay down on what they can see. And you can wear a ballistic vest, not going to protect you from getting shot in the head and the face.
So you've done the math, man, and the odds, and you've been doing this long enough. This is the decision you made. Some might argue, hey, that's a bad idea, but there's going to be two camps for everything.
Exactly. And I don't blame the guys that do it. It doesn't hurt to be safe, right? It's just something that I've chosen not to do.
So he comes off, you hard out him, which basically means, for those of people that don't know, maybe you can explain that. My limited knowledge on this is effectively you've got to go in there, get underneath that collar, and get enough of that collar to where the dog has a tough time breathing and recognizes, oh, it's time for me to let go.
Right.
Which would be the equivalent of the e-collar working and doing what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what, man? You just start covering the dog, just trying to figure it out, looking for holes.
Yep. I'm rubbing my hands on every square inch of his body and
just
breaking
everything.
Looking like, you just
have to find it. He's hit.
Yeah.
You know he's hit.
Yeah.
Well, in 100%. Your head.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I check him out, and I just can't believe that I don't find any blood. Can't believe it. Right. Well, I guess the funny side to this is he obviously had been on bite for a little while, so he's got a lot of suspect blood around his face. Mm-hmm. So as I'm kind of, checking his body and stuff, he rubs his face up and he gives me a kiss.
Oh shit.
Rubs his face across my face. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if that's funny or not, man.
So our patrol sergeant gets on scene and he comes running up and he's like, dude, are you okay? What's wrong? And he's grabbing me. And I'm like, what? I'm fine. What? I'm fine. He's like, you got blood all over your face. Do you? He's like, yo, all over the whole side. I guess I look like, came out of Braveheart or something, but so, it's the little things.
Geez. But, yeah, I mean, so obviously everybody's checking everybody at this point because there's been bullets flying. And so dog comes off. I mean, at what point, the adrenaline and the cortisol is at an all-time high. I mean,
sure.
I can imagine you've been in other incidents, but this is pretty crazy. And hats off to the other officers and their marksmanship.